The outer edge of the Perseus Rim was a place of silence, a forgotten border of the Galactic Empire where old listening arrays gathered dust and cosmic static. On an unremarkable shift, the silence broke. A tremor rippled through the gravimetric grid, so faint it barely registered, yet too structured to be natural. The technicians on duty flagged it, expecting another malfunction. But the readings didn't fade. They deepened, intensified, and began to pulse in a rhythmic pattern that no known system could replicate. Within minutes, the Empire's Deep Space Command Center received an automated alert: unidentified mass approaching, energy signature beyond measurable scale. Admiral Kareth dismissed the initial report. Rogue asteroids, phantom echoes, space was full of illusions. But then the distortion began to align into a coherent signal. Gravitational flux stabilized. A dark shape emerged against the background radiation, immense enough to eclipse a moon. No transponder. No ID code. Just silence, and that impossible mass growing sharper on their scanners. The officers around the Admiral leaned forward in disbelief. The object wasn't orbiting anything, it was holding position in deep vacuum, steady as if anchored to nothing. Sensors strained to identify its structure. The computers failed. The readings returned conflicting data: hull density higher than neutronium, energy core output greater than the Empire's largest dreadnought carrier, but zero radiation leakage. No drive emissions, no reactor heat, nothing. It was as though the ship absorbed the very laws that should expose it. Someone whispered that it wasn't a ship at all, but a mirage, a gravitational anomaly. Yet the shadow grew sharper, the edges outlined by reflected starlight. It was real, angular, symmetrical, terrifyingly human in design. A nervous ensign ran spectral comparison checks. The whole pattern matched archived Terran blueprints, ancient warship architecture thought lost with Earth's fall centuries ago. The bridge fell into stunned silence. The word human drifted through the room like a ghost. Official history recorded their extinction. Their homeworld had been sterilized, their colonies purged after the Terran rebellions. No one had seen a human vessel since. It couldn't be. And yet every sensor confirmed the impossible. 2 Imperial scout cruisers were dispatched to investigate. Their transmission feeds filled the command display, 2 bright specks accelerating toward the anomaly, engines glowing. As they approached, the interference grew worse. Communication broke up, signals fragmented, visuals distorted by static. The last clear frame showed the unknown ship rotating slowly, revealing vast surfaces etched with faded markings, letters of an ancient human language, worn but recognizable. Then nothing. Both scouts vanished from sensors without explosion, distress call, or debris. Panic surged through the command decks. Emergency scans found no trace of wreckage. The massive vessel remained motionless, as if it had simply absorbed the scouts into itself. Admiral Kareth ordered long-range weapon locks, but the targeting systems refused to fix coordinates. The ship didn't register as a target. It was there, but not there. The computer flagged an error, spatial reference invalid. Even the fabric of space seemed to bend around it. A faint signal bled through the interference. It wasn't language, just a series of rhythmic pulses, identical to a human distress pattern used centuries ago. The technicians stared at the screen, unable to process what they were hearing. The signal was old, yes, but modified, layered with harmonics that carried impossible precision. It was as if the ship was speaking in mathematics, in physics itself. Fleet intelligence intervened. Reports were sealed, communications encrypted, the system marked under quarantine. Kareth was ordered to stand down and observe only. The Empire's most secure analysts reviewed the data. None could explain it. Every conclusion pointed to a single, forbidden answer: humanity had not perished. They had gone somewhere else, advanced beyond detection, and now something of theirs had returned. For 3 standard hours the object remained still. Then, without visible propulsion, it moved, gliding forward with a grace that defied inertia. No acceleration curve, no thrust wake, only a distortion of light around it. The observers described it as motion without movement, like space itself carried the vessel forward. Then, as if aware it had been seen, the object emitted a brief surge of power that washed over the entire sensor network. Every display turned white. When the light cleared, the ship was gone. Admiral Karras stood frozen, watching the static fade. His voice trembled as he muttered, "If that was human, they've built something the gods themselves would fear." Word of the anomaly reached the heart of the Empire within a single rotation. By the time the encrypted report reached Orion Prime, half the High Council was already whispering about a phantom warship that defied Imperial physics. The Emperor demanded an explanation. His advisors offered theories designed to soothe him: sensor ghosts, rebel trickery, experimental weapons from rival factions. None dared speak the words spreading through the lower ranks: *human star. The term itself carried superstition, a ghost of the past that scholars called myth and soldiers called a curse. Humanity's supposed extinction was written into the foundation of the Empire's pride. Admitting survival would mean admitting failure. The Imperial Science Guild convened an emergency session. Analysts pored over the telemetry, dissecting gravitational harmonics, energy readings, and spectral signatures. Every variable aligned with Terran design philosophy: brutal efficiency, minimal radiation, total control. It was not artistry, it was purpose. One scientist, pale with disbelief, presented archived data of Earth's final battles: same power modulation, same frequency discipline, only amplified beyond conceivable technology. When she mentioned the possibility of human origin, the chamber erupted. Accusations flew: falsified data, misinterpreted noise, sabotage. Yet no one could explain why their most advanced probes had vanished near the source. The silence was evidence enough. The Emperor's defense ministers demanded proof before panic took hold. The Imperial Navy's Strategic Bureau argued for secrecy. Leaking this would destabilize sectors already restless with rebellion. A few pragmatists insisted on immediate reconnaissance. Against opposition, a covert task force of observation drones was deployed. None returned. The last signal captured before total blackout was a single flash of structured light forming ancient Terran code fragments. Translation units identified 3 words: "We remember everything." Denial hardened into fear. The council chambers, usually filled with pomp, turned somber. No one wanted to say it aloud, yet the implication grew heavier with every failed explanation. Humanity's reputation was not one of mercy. In the old archives, before censorship, records described them as unpredictable beings who fought without symmetry or restraint, who turned desperation into advantage and weaponized imagination itself. Empires had fallen before their chaos, and only extermination had secured galactic stability, or so the story went. If a single vessel had survived, it might represent centuries of unchecked evolution. The Emperor convened his war cabinet under emergency code. The meeting lasted hours behind sealed doors. Intelligence officers briefed them on ancient Terran warfare doctrines: psychological dominance, calculated silence, targeted annihilation. The conclusion was simple and horrifying: the unknown ship's behavior matched every recorded tactic. It appeared, provoked observation, and then vanished to study its observers. A hunt had begun, and the Empire was the prey. Imperial propaganda units were ordered to suppress rumors. Civilian networks were filtered. The incident was classified as an anomalous stellar event. Fleet admirals, however, were not fooled. In private channels, they recalled what their predecessors once wrote before Earth burned: humans never stopped until their enemies surrendered or ceased to exist. Commanders whispered of old campaign mottos carved into Terran hulls: *no second chances. When the Science Guild requested unrestricted analysis rights, the military seized all data instead. The admiral overseeing the sector was recalled and interrogated for negligence. His testimony was brief and unhelpful. "It wasn't an enemy," he said. "It was a reminder." He was found dead 2 days later, officially listed as suicide. By the week's end, the Imperial Security Bureau launched Operation Theta, a containment initiative designed to monitor deep space anomalies linked to the signal. Hundreds of observation outposts were activated. Still, nothing appeared. The void remained empty, patient, waiting. The Emperor's final directive before sealing the archives was spoken only once, asterisk. Humanity was erased from existence. If they are back, then existence itself has betrayed us. Asterisk. The words spread in whispers through every command chain, tightening the quiet dread that infected the entire empire. And though no one dared admit it, a shared thought pulsed beneath the silence of every rank, from the lowest deckhand to the highest admiral. Asterisk. If humans truly returned, extinction may have chosen the wrong side. Asterisk. For 6 standard days, the unidentified vessel drifted beyond Imperial borders, silent and unresponsive, a presence that distorted every sensor array aimed at it. The Empire's fleets gathered at the perimeter, weapons primed yet trembling under uncertainty. Then, on the 7th day, a signal broke through the static, an audio transmission so clean it bypassed encryption firewalls and opened on every military channel simultaneously. The voice was steady, unhurried, undeniably human. "This is Captain Ilias Saren of the United Human Systems vessel Revenant. Identify yourselves." The words struck the command centers like a pulse through their cores. No machine could replicate that tone. It carried gravity, intelligence, and something colder than hostility, confidence. The responding admiral tried protocol, declaring imperial authority over the sector. Saren's reply cut through with surgical precision. "Authority?" she said. "You once called it cleansing. We called it preparation." Every broadcast officer froze. Her diction was flawless, accent neutral, the sound of someone who had not just survived extinction but transcended it. Data streams followed, encrypted symbols transmitting directly into Imperial systems. They contained no virus, no demands, only fragments of coordinates corresponding to forgotten human colonies long erased from records. Within seconds, the Empire realized those worlds were no longer barren. They emitted faint power readings, controlled, deliberate, hidden until now. Humanity had not perished, it had gone silent and built in the dark. The Revenant moved closer without propulsion signature, a mass so vast it displaced gravitational lanes. Imperial destroyers surrounded it in formation. Target locks failed, guidance systems shorted out, and energy cores fluctuated. Every attempt at analysis collapsed into interference. A single command from Saren's voice restored the chaos to order. "Your weapons are unnecessary. We disabled them to save you from mistakes." She did not raise her tone. It was the voice of someone stating fact, not threat. A transmission channel opened across the Empire's upper network, uninvited, unstoppable. Council members on Orion Prime watched as her image, blurred and abstract, appeared over their holodisplays. Her expression was unreadable, her surroundings indistinct. "We left your galaxy because progress demanded solitude," she said. "You expanded into our ashes. You built monuments over graves you never understood. Now we return, not for vengeance, but for balance." The statement struck harder than any weapon. The military's communication corps scrambled to regain control of their channels. They failed. The human message echoed through every relay, embedding itself into broadcast code. Even civilian terminals received fragments before censorship protocols activated. Panic spread faster than suppression. The word human became a contagion. At the fleet perimeter, drones detached from the Revenant, hundreds of small, silent objects dispersing like metallic spores. Scanners identified each as a self-contained reactor capable of energy output surpassing dreadnought reactors. They positioned themselves around every Imperial ship with precise symmetry, forming a sphere of controlled stasis. The Admiral ordered withdrawal. Engines refused to respond. Saren spoke once more, calm, detached. "Observation complete. Aggression unnecessary. You have not yet earned consequence." Then, in a gesture that defied logic, the Revenant transmitted a burst of data across hyperspace. The Empire's entire defense grid blinked out for 60 seconds. Every station, fleet, and planetary shield went dark. When power returned, nothing had been damaged. The systems were untouched, but each displayed the same message: do not follow. "We are not done watching. ****. The Imperial Navy, proud and ancient, realized in that instant that their power meant nothing. Humanity hadn't returned to fight, they had returned to remind the galaxy of perspective. In the aftermath, Saren's final words lingered across encrypted frequencies, low and measured. Dominance is a word for the frightened. We no longer need it. When the transmission ended, no one spoke. Across 1,000 systems, silence replaced command. Every officer, soldier, and ruler who heard that voice understood a truth their ancestors once feared. Humanity was not lost. They had been waiting for the galaxy to grow complacent enough to forget what they truly were. The Empire's response was immediate and desperate. Within hours of the Revenant-S transmission, fleets from 9 sectors were mobilized, forming the largest defensive assembly since the Wars of Expansion. Over 2,000 warships aligned across the Persis Rim, their formations precise, their admirals resolute but shaken. The Emperor's decree was absolute. The anomaly must be confronted, captured, or destroyed. Yet none could define what they were truly facing. The command network repeated the same phrase: containment through overwhelming force. Confidence was the illusion they clung to. The Revenant did not retreat. It hovered at the threshold of Imperial space, silent and motionless, an outline against the stars like a verdict awaiting execution. Scanners attempted to map its structure, but the readings returned infinite internal layering, as if the ship existed in multiple spatial states simultaneously. The scientific explanation made no difference to the admirals who saw it as defiance. They ordered a demonstration of strength. Thousands of cannons ignited across the void, charging with enough power to vaporize continents. At the signal, energy beams converged on the target. The impact registered nothing. The beams bent away as if space itself refused to touch it. Before the fleet could process the failure, the Revenant responded, not with weaponry, but with light. A vast holographic projection unfolded, encompassing the entire battlefield. It displayed a map of the galaxy, ancient and incomplete, yet recognizable. Around its periphery, hundreds of faint markers pulsed, unknown energy signatures outside the galactic rim. Every pulse synchronized with the Revenant-S core. Humanity was not represented by one ship. They had built many. A single communication followed, carried through every open frequency. Captain Saren's voice returned, steady and measured. You feared our extinction because you mistook silence for death. You sought to erase us, yet our memory shaped your very systems. Your ships, your weapons, your sciences, they all trace back to us. We let you inherit the ashes. We returned to claim the fire. Her words were not a threat but a statement of ownership. Admiral Viros, commanding the Armada, defied orders and demanded negotiation. Saren's tone did not shift. Negotiation requires parity. You possess none. The fleet's computers detected gravitational distortion forming behind the Revenant. A singularity, controlled, stable, and impossibly small, opened like an eye. The Imperial analysts recognized the readings instantly, a weaponization of gravity itself. Before the Admiral could issue retreat, the singularity pulsed once, releasing a wave that collapsed an entire battle group into silence. No explosion, no debris, just vanishing. 100 ships gone, erased from all measurable existence. Panic erupted across the network. Captains screamed for hyperspace escape, but their drives failed. The Revenant spoke again, quieter now. We did not come to destroy you. We came to remind you that survival has consequences. The holographic map shifted, showing dozens of Imperial colonies blinking red, each site where ancient human ruins had been desecrated or mined for resources. Saren's voice followed, unflinching. You violated graves to build thrones. That ends tonight. The Revenant-S systems brightened for a moment, then dimmed, and the singularity vanished. In its place remained a corridor of warped light, proof of power beyond comprehension. Withdraw from every world once touched by Earth, Saren said. Do this, and the balance remains. Defy it, and silence will follow. Then the ship released a final pulse across the sector. Every Imperial vessel powered down. Engines died, weapons shut off, life support systems froze for precisely 60 seconds. When control returned, the Revenant was gone, leaving only a field of drifting ships and terrified officers staring into the void. The Council on Orion Prime received confirmation of the event hours later. They called it an act of intimidation. The Emperor called it mercy. None dared contest either description. And as the reports spread through the ranks, one truth eclipsed all others: humanity had transcended war. They no longer fought for victory, they enforced remembrance. The Revenant vanished as if it had never existed, leaving behind only distorted telemetry and a galaxy drowning in silence. The fleets that had gathered to confront it floated aimlessly, systems barely functioning, crews too shaken to speak. When the first transmissions resumed, they carried nothing but stunned reports: no debris, no trace, no logical aftermath. Across the Empire's networks, whispers began spreading faster than officials could suppress them. The humans had returned, and they had judged. No proclamation followed, no ultimatum, just the echo of a power that did not need to announce itself. The Emperor convened the High Council in secrecy, but security was meaningless. The rumors had already reached every tier of the population. Markets collapsed, border garrisons deserted, and colonies that once mocked the idea of ancient humanity now built shrines to it. Scholars tore through restricted archives searching for unedited fragments of Terran history. Every rediscovered record only deepened the dread. Humanity's final transmissions, once erased, had warned of transformation: no death, only departure. The Empire had never destroyed them, it had simply lost sight of what they became. Military intelligence tried to downplay the encounter, rebranding it as an experimental weapon test by an unnamed faction. Yet across deep space channels, encrypted signals appeared carrying a single phrase repeated in countless dialects. Revenant was only the first. The repetition crossed every communication boundary, slipping into navigation systems, personal devices, and planetary networks as though reality itself wanted the message known. Entire communication grids shut down in fear of infection, but it was already too late. The phrase had become a truth embedded in data and memory alike. The Empire's scientists failed to comprehend how a single event destabilized an entire civilization. It was not destruction that shattered them, it was irrelevance. The understanding that humans, once erased from the galactic order, now possessed mastery over the very forces that defined existence. Philosophers called it ascension, soldiers called it divine retaliation, and ordinary citizens called it justice. Old monuments celebrating the Terran Purge were torn down in secret by the same workers ordered to protect them. Fear was no longer the motivator, it was reverence. Within the Imperial Academy, classified research revealed a chilling pattern. Across dozens of fringe systems, unregistered gravitational anomalies began appearing, small distortions resembling the Revenant's signature. None displayed aggression, none communicated, but each appeared near worlds tied to humanity's past. Attempts to investigate ended in system-wide malfunctions. The analysts called them echoes. The faithful called them watchers. Either way, they were reminders that observation continued. In time, the Council lost control of its territories. Admirals withdrew fleets under the guise of reorganization, governors declared neutrality, and even loyal systems began aligning under a new belief: humanity's return was not invasion, it was correction. The Emperor's decrees turned into whispers of denial. Surveillance reports confirmed that his own palace staff spoke of hearing human voices through static, as if every transmission carried their presence. Reality itself felt thinner, less certain. Months passed, but the fear never settled. Instead, it transformed into a quiet submission. Star systems stopped resisting, ceasing expansion beyond their borders. Exploration mandates were repealed. The galaxy that once thrived on conquest became cautious, reserved, aware it was being watched by something greater than empire or species. No further appearances of the Revenant were ever confirmed, yet the myth grew faster than proof could disprove it. In the end, an untraceable broadcast spread through the interstellar network, soft but inescapable. A voice, human yet altered, spoke one final line. "You built empires on our extinction. Now you live in the shadow of our return." The transmission ended, and no one dared respond. In the centuries that followed, no civilization expanded beyond the territories humanity once touched. They called it the line of remembrance. Beyond it lay the dark, the realm of those who had transcended mortality and rewritten existence itself. Humanity had not come back to rule. They had come back to remind creation who its architects truly were.